Welcome to the Brick and Butter Zone. I'm your host, Case Erickson, here to talk to restaurateurs who reveal their secret recipes for success. You will be encouraged, equipped, and inspired to take your business to the next level. It's like butter, baby. Butter! So buckle up and get in the zone.
Thank you. So today we have with us Andy Wigginton, one of the owners of Patika Coffee in Austin. Andy, thank you so much for being here today.
Absolutely. It's great to get to catch up with you and chat about this stuff. It's really exciting.
So really quick, I want to share with our listeners, if you haven't been to Patika Coffee, one of the things that resonated with me when I went into your space, well, a couple of things resonated with me about your story, like how you've gone from food truck owner to, or like having this coffee cart to actually having a brick and mortar space. It's kind of like, how do we do that? And you actually did it. And so I really want to touch on how you did it, some of the obstacles and challenges that you did and how you've overcame them. And then also one of the things that I really loved about your brick and mortar space was this sense of like, I just feel like it just feels comfortable in here, and it feels like clean and warm and cool and chic. And it's like one of those, like, I mean, the sign is cool and the bricks are cool, and I just get all like queer eye for the restaurant guy when I go in there because it just feels good. And so I would love to kind of touch on some of your tips on how do we create that effective brand, whether that be our signage on a food truck or if we have a brick and mortar space, how do we create that ambiance and that feeling, and then of course how that translates to our customers and profits and all that other stuff. So that's really what I want to touch on. So tell us really quick, give me a timeline on kind of when you opened the food cart and what was inside your brain where you're like, okay, I'll do this. I mean, what were you doing before, and
Sure.
and what led you to do the coffee cart?
So I had worked I graduated from UT with my MBA in 2000, and I had worked for a software startup. I was their first employee in, I want to say April of 2000, and grew from, that company was originally starting with the idea of delivering groceries, and then pivoted off of that to doing software for human resources for public institutions, colleges, and governments. So very much of a turn there, and I did that for 6 or 7 years, and going from a 3-person company to a 75-person company can definitely burn somebody out. And I was looking for something different, something that I had way more passion about. And the two things that really I've been passionate about for a really long time, probably since college, has been travel and coffee. So a business partner and I moved out to LA, and we started a company that does travel marketing. And so I was in LA for a couple of years doing that, and then wasn't happy in LA because, I don't know, there's a lot of reasons to not be happy in LA. There are many reasons to be happy in LA, but a lot of reasons not to be happy. And my partner was back here in Austin, and I was kind of traveling back and forth. And Austin is easy, and so it's a great town to be in and great community. And so I wanted to be back here full time. And the work I was doing with the marketing company was basically part time, maybe 10 hours a week, something like that. And so I was figuring out what I do with this extra space in my life. And I had always thought about opening up a coffee shop, and I think a lot more people have that dream than I realized. Since opening a coffee shop, I get, once a week someone comes in and says, I really want to open a coffee shop, or I've wanted to open a coffee shop. And so it's kind of this space that you create, and people are like, I really want to do that, which is fun, and being in that position. And so I kind of decided to put my money where my mouth was, and started thinking very hard about actually doing it. So this was in 2009 when I moved back to Austin, and the food truck thing then was picking up. And you had really Kebabalicious and Torchy's, and those were kind of the big names back then in food trucks. And so we figured it was a good way to dip our toe in the coffee world because I had never worked in coffee before, but I knew very much what I was going for in terms of the quality of the drink and also the quality of the experience. And so design has kind of been part of our motivation from the beginning as well. So we, not knowing anything about really the day-to-day coffee world and not knowing if we were going to absolutely hate it, waking up early and interacting with customers every day. And so that was it was a risk. But we were mitigating our risk by doing it in a truck. So if we hated it, we could sell everything and go off and do something else. So we put a down payment on a trailer in November of 2009, got the trailer early 2010 and started fitting it out. And I mentioned that design was part of our motivation from the beginning, and we really wanted it to feel like a quote-unquote open cafe space, even though it was a little truck. So we have, basically two sides of the truck are all windows, and you can see into our blonde wood walls and our blonde wood shelving and our, wood countertops. And it is very clean looking and very open looking, and you can see what's going on. And so maintaining a certain look is really important to us, just because we want people to feel like they're getting that cafe coffee shop experience, even though it's just a truck. So we opened in March of 2010, and Cilantro opened very soon after us, and also Turf and Surf opened right around that same time. And we all shared a little parking space down at 2nd and Congress where the Marriott is right now. So Turf and Surf and Cilantro and Kebabalicious was also there, and us. And so we had this big kind of trailer court of sorts right in the middle of downtown.
Oh, and all of y'all have graduated now to your little brick and mortar spaces. It's cute.
It was a good class to be in at the time.
Yeah.
But it took a really long time. It took, we moved a couple times when they started building the Marriott, and to pivot back on our questioning whether we were going to really like it or not, that was kind of the biggest surprise to me. Was I am much more introverted than I think people expect me to be. And so when I was interacting with customers every day and not getting burned out by it and really enjoying the conversations and enjoying the community that Austin has, just people are friendly and people are helpful and people want to have a good experience with someone face to face, on a daily basis, and I really liked that, and we really liked that, and that was a bit of a surprise to us, that how much we were going to enjoy that face-to-face customer interaction.
You're like, I think I like people.
Exactly. Forever I have described myself, among my friends as, I'm not a person that just automatically likes people. It's like, oh, wait, maybe I do. If I'm doing something that if I'm making something positive and people are positively responding to it, and being downtown is kind of a funny thing, because when you're seeing people, they are, on a 15-minute vacation from their job. They work in an office, they are behind a computer, and they need a break. And so they're really coming to take a breath and relax and get out of that mode. And so people are really open to being friendly and chatty and telling you about their dogs and their babies and their wives. And it was a great way to get that exposure to the community. And it turned out I really liked it. So we, were in the trailer for really a couple of years, and then we started thinking about doing a brick and mortar space, and figuring out everything that would be involved in that. And so one of our regular customers was a commercial real estate broker, and he was like, all right, well, I'll keep my ears open for you. And so we looked at a couple things, downtown that didn't work out, and looked at a couple things around town that didn't work out. And then eventually we'd kind of targeted South Lamar as a part of town that needed good coffee. And I have this quotes around good coffee because I think that there's, being in the coffee industry, we have a feeling that there's, Starbucks or less than Starbucks, and then there's, probably something in between, and then there's what I consider good coffee, which is people care about it. People are not serving you something that was made 6 hours ago. People aren't messing up the espresso. They're not burning your milk in your cappuccino. There's a whole host of other things, of course, that go into it. But my classification system is this good coffee level. And so there was a hole kind of in South Lamar for good coffee, and really South Austin entirely. There was one shop that opened up in 2009 called Once Over on South First Street, and they were doing good coffee, but that was the only thing south of the river. Everything coffee-wise was opening up kind of on the east side, getting a lot of shops. So we targeted South Lamar. And getting the space we have really came through a networking. We had met a guy who was a property owner around town and had mentioned to him, and this is one thing, mentioning to people that you're looking for a space is a great tip, because you never know who's going to know somebody or own a building, and they're going to want to do something that is, not putting in the next big TGI Friday. They want to do something a little more interesting, a little more often. And that's what happened with us. It was this guy that owned a piece of property, and his tenants just, let him know that they were moving out, and he put two and two together and thought, all right, it's a good spot for coffee. I want to, contribute something to make this part of town a little bit less, a little more interesting retail as opposed to just some of the standard boutiques that were going on there. And so we, came up with a deal to take over the space and do big renovation and all of that. So, we ended up with the space on South Lamar where we are now.
That's awesome. And I know that, the market right now is a lot different, the real estate market in particular. I also work in the market and work with clients and finding spaces, and it's so competitive, and competing for spaces. And a lot of my clients, there'll be, maybe two or three other proposals in on the property. It's definitely a landlord's market right now, which is a challenge. Do you think that finding that space, was it kind of like, you hear people say right time, right person, right time kind of a thing or whatever, or do you think it was really something that was running in the background where you were aligned with what you were doing, you felt good about what you were doing, and you were committed to taking the next steps, and you were, there was something that was driving that invisible synchronicity, I'll call it, if you will?
Yeah, I think that, doing one thing that starting in a food truck, many things that starting in a food truck give you a leg up on versus just announcing to the world I'm opening up a coffee shop or a restaurant. One, you're practicing your product, and you are kind of figuring out what your brand and value as a brand are. And so when someone is considering whether to lease to you or to lease to the TGI Fridays company, they can see what your vision is, albeit in a small scale. And the other thing that it gave us is we hired staff in the trailer, and that making really good hires and training them well and having them able to take on additional responsibility gave us the confidence that we could do that some more in a brick and mortar space.
Yeah.
And so going in and signing a 5-year, 10-year, 20-year lease, whatever it is, and committing to X $1,000 every month for the next 10 years is a big leap. But having the people and having the brand identified within us gave us the confidence to be able to take that leap. and having something to show gave our landlord the ability to look at it and say, okay, I can trust these guys to execute something, albeit on a bigger scale. It's a little bit of a risk, but it's less of a risk than someone coming in with really, no experience or pedigree or anything. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. I don't even know how anybody would compete if they didn't have some sort of existing business, whether or not that was a food truck or food cart or commercial kitchen or something, you're fresh off the truck or what. I think that's a brand, right? But,
yeah, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely essential so that you can have this scalable model. And that's one of the things that I love about the opportunity of the food truck. So tell me specifically, how did you raise the capital to make that leap? Because it's obviously a lot more to create a brick and mortar space than food cart.
Yeah, we're lucky. And I bought a house in Travis Heights in Austin in 2001 that I was no longer living in. And it was now 2012, 2013. And real estate in Austin has appreciated quite a bit. And so we had decided we were going to be selling the house anyway. And so we were able to sell the house and put those proceeds into the, first 2 years of the brick and mortar store. So we were lucky in that we didn't have to go seek outside investors. And I have seen that experience as well, with another business. I don't know if she would want me to talk about it, but basically her process of going through really a year and a half of meetings with people, and selling the concept. And it's a great concept and it's very unique. But still, it's getting people to part with $25 or $50 or $100,000 to invest is challenging. But I think if you believe in what you're selling and you have a strong message and pitch, she was able to raise, let's say, $750,000.
Wow.
To do what she's doing now. So it can be done. And most places, I think, if you're opening, depending on if you're taking over an existing space, we were taking over a space that was not a restaurant previously, and so there was some conversion involved there. It was a little more expensive than it would have been taking over an existing coffee shop space, or even a restaurant space. But it's doable. It may take longer to raise the money, and keeping yourself going to do that and being open to really any conversation. One of the things that my friend who was raising this money, she was, every conversation she had was, who else can I talk to? And she was willing to talk to anybody. And when she would start to name names of the people in town she was talking to, either about pitching for investing or just getting advice on how do I do this crazy idea that I want to do, she was willing to go and have those conversations and put herself out there and ask for help and advice. And that, I think, is key to getting it done.
Yeah. And I mean, it's still a gamble when you're talking about selling anything that you own,
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
still a gamble. It's a lot of times people are like, oh, I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't do that. I don't have a house to sell or something. But it's not,
Sure.
It's about what do we have? And like you said, your friend, it's like we have resources, we have people, we have our mouths, we have our conviction, we have our commitment, we have tenacity and drive and all these things. And, it's we all have what we have and we capitalize on it and quote unquote sell it. And put that into our dreams. So, I still hear a lot of, you took the risk and you made the leap because, I think that it was a calculated risk. And I think this is what kind of represents a, let's say, smart entrepreneur, for maybe not. Like, we're all risky, but it's about, okay, how do we test the market? How do we learn a location? How do we learn about our customers? How do we learn the craft? And so it's not a total crapshoot.
Sure,
it's just like
absolutely.
Semi crapshoot.
Exactly. Yeah, and one of the things that was really helpful for us and the truck initially was and it was more than I absolutely expected. But when we opened up on South Lamar, I don't know, I feel like 25% of our regulars downtown lived in that neighborhood or something.
That's
and
awesome.
so we would just immediately see people who knew what we were about, and could now come and hang out for an hour and, buy multiple things and bring their families and come in on the weekends. And so that track record and brand identity sparked that initial customer base that we had, which I don't know, in my head we were going to be starting from scratch in some ways in terms of building a customer
Right.
base on South Lamar, just because coffee is a very localized thing, and coffee shops are very local to your neighborhood where you live. And so I kind of had that expectation, but it was not that at all. We had a built-in customer base from the beginning, and it certainly wasn't enough to sustain, a big coffee shop on its own, but it was definitely enough to start getting the word out and getting people saying positive things, and then bringing their friends, and then their friends bringing their friends. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what was I know there's probably a multitude of, I call them WTF moments, what the fuck moments. I mean, we can say we're all grown-ups here.
Sure.
that, where you're like, oh my God, I don't know if I can do this. There was some, kind of a brick wall, if it was an actual brick wall or something, what stands out to you as one of the big, if you had to pick your favorite WTF moment in your journey so far, what would it be?
Let's see. I mean, there are numerous times when early on it was something breaking at the trailer, and like you're the only one that can do it, and you are at home and it's 6 a.m. and one of your guys is opening up the thing and is like, oh, the espresso machine decided not to work this morning, and so you are, it's been a long week and you're getting up and you're having to go handle that problem. And being able and willing to do that and not, kill yourself or kill the person you're working with or whatever it is, or kill your partner. So, I mean, to me, it's those day-to-day things that were a lot of the challenges of keeping yourself going and motivated in the face of those mini setbacks. There were definitely moments when we were building out the space on South Lamar, and you walk into this shell of a building and think, oh crap, what did I do? It looks terrible.
Yeah. Everything
is gross. I don't have control over this because you have a contractor is working with you, and it's daunting, taking on that kind of responsibility, and so that's really, really hard. I think the other thing that to me is both now a challenge, it's being responsible for staff and having employees is a big one in terms of, if I fuck this up, these, 10, 12, 14 people that I'm working with are kind of screwed. And it is this responsibility that you have to, you are,
they're like they're like your children.
They're definitely, we call them the kids.
Yeah.
What are the kids doing this afternoon, this evening, whatever. But it's also, it's they have rent and they have car payments and they have, school loans to pay back. And I am responsible for not fucking that up. And so that's something that weighs on me, and that I think about a lot, because it's, a lot of responsibility to have. Having said that, I have amazing staff. They are great to work with, and they're great with customers, and they are great with product and making really great coffee consistently and representing our, what we want to do in terms of our brand and in terms of the experience for people. So I want to work with them every day. And that's kind of the flip side of that responsibility is, I want to work with these people. It's incredibly rewarding to go to work and see. This morning it was Michael and Blake behind the counter, and they're great, and they're smiling, and they're having fun, and customers are having fun with them, and that's the part that is super rewarding on a daily basis.
Yeah, and so how, I had the same, I had a conversation earlier. One of the other interviews that I've done is with Bridget Dunlap of, Rainy Street. I don't know if you know Bridget, but
yeah,
she's got a number of bars.
I haven't met her, but yeah.
Yeah, so she calls her employees kids as well, and I did too. And even this is before I even had kids. I was like, "Hey, what's up, kids?" But it's something inside that world of creating family environment, creating the value, where it's not like, oh, I'm the employer and you are the employee, sure. Where they actually feel value, that gives them that space to be themselves and to be the contribution. You're not like, oh, do your job or get out. I mean, was it, and for me, it was a learning curve because I went right from selling real estate to owning a restaurant. I didn't have a transitional period. I'd always worked in the industry through college, bartended, managed restaurants, and blah, blah, blah. But, managing employees, managing product, managing inventory, all these things were new to me, and I learned on the fly. And I learned through, the first 8 to 12 months of being open, how to communicate and have policies and procedures and be clear and all that, which translated to nice employee retention and profitability and all that stuff. Is there something specific, like for me? So I kind of think it's a specific thing for me that I gave them clear policies and procedures so that I didn't feel like an asshole if I was saying, hey, this doesn't work. I love you, and here's what your job is, and you're not doing your job. Do you feel like, is there something specific that you guys do, or is it you're just nicer than me, maybe?
I think that your point about communication, which essentially is to me what that policy is, right? Like a policy manual or a certain policy around opening the store and closing the store and those kind of procedures and things is really at its base communication. And these are my expectations, and this is what you have to do to meet my expectations. And to me, that's that communication bit. And that is the most, it is critically important in having a business, any kind of business at all, but particularly one where your employees are the customer face. They're the ones that your customers are interacting with. And being super clear about what your expectation is with how they're supposed to treat customers and how they're supposed to treat the product and how they're supposed to treat the space and the shop is critical, because you need to have people be on board to your vision. And if you are clear about that and people see that and people know, okay, I'm going into work and we're, representing the vision of Patika, and that's part of my job and that's what I'm doing. That communication and clarity is super important. And I struggle with it. It's something that, there are things that in my head I have told everybody, but I haven't really told everybody. And it's definitely mistakes along the way, and learning the fallout of not having a difficult conversation 2 months ago that really you should have had. And now it's 2 months later on and something has, festered or gotten bad. And it's, now that person is really unhappy, or the customer is really unhappy because that person is unhappy. You learn those things as you go. And so communication has definitely been one of those things that I've had to focus more on, and making sure that everybody's on board. And I think that it's also, at the same time as you've got these policies in place and expectations super clear, we it's a balancing act, but we want to keep space for them to have fun in their jobs. And that's really important for us because we want our customers to have fun and feel like they're in a space that's, like you're talking about, it's light and it's cozy and it's comfortable. And part of that is our employees, the way the employee is acting in that space. And I feel like I've walked into places where you can tell, maybe the big boss is in the kitchen or something and everybody seems really stressed out and is super on point, and their, teeth are clenched and they're, really anxious, and you feel that as a customer. And so for us, it's been a balancing act between, all right, these are the things you have to get done, and these are the things, the I's you have to dot and the T's you have to cross. But also, we want you to have fun and enjoy yourself and interact with the customers in a way that is friendly and light and caring. And if you are too strict on clamping down on things, then you kind of are going to lose that experience, that genuine personal
What do you
experience.
mean you can't force somebody to have fun?
I
said
tried.
have fun
It
at
doesn't
work, damn it.
Exactly. One of the biggest compliments that touches me when a customer comes up and they're like, "It seems like your people are really enjoying themselves at work," and that is the thing that if that resonates to a customer, that is super significant to me, and I get a lot of satisfaction from the fact that they're seeing that and it's coming across. Because I think customers will come back if that's the case.
Yeah, and I think that's a reflection of you and a lot of business owners and things when they're like they want to blame employees if things aren't right. They want to blame employees for being stressed out or being whatever. But I mean, I think that's a testament to the way that you have approached the business, and you've approached this with this lightness and this beauty, and hey, we're going to see in and you're going to feel good. And that was your intent. We're going to create good coffee, and we're going to raise the bar. And that was always your intention. So, it would make sense that further gets translates to your staff and through the brand. So I'm, if anybody's listening and they're having any complaints with their staff, they can take an honest personal inventory of where their internal complaints, and I'm a big, that's when I get into my big life coaching moments where it's like, hey, these things matter. If you have internal complaints with yourself, if you're a negative person, if you're stressed or whatever, your staff, there's no other way your staff can go. Your staff cannot be happy to be there if you yourself are stressed. So do what you got to do to keep unstressed and keep happy.
Yeah, absolutely. And you are, and as a business owner, you're not going to be unstressed, really. Like at some point, you probably will relax a little bit, but there's still going to be stress there. But it's not representing that in a way that freaks out your employees, and it's letting them know what's, my employees know when they've done something that I'm not going to like. It's been very clear from the very beginning, and, if there's something going on that I'm not going to like, they know it. And it's something that our more senior folks are like to our more junior folks, Andy's not going to like that if X, Y, Z, and that's their threat. And I don't have to do anything or be mean because they just can say, oh, you really should be doing Y, and they can represent that in a way that everybody gets the idea. So the other thing I think that really creating this space for your employees to be comfortable is they're going to come to you and tell you when something's not working. And as an owner, you may feel like you are there every day and you're on top of everything that's going on and you're watching everything, but you're not. There's no way you can be because the bookkeeping still has to get done, and the purchasing and the inventorying and all those other things have to get done, and you're not seeing what's there all the time. And if your employees are feeling like they can come to you and say, hey, this doesn't work, and you're not going to freak out and blow up on them and tell them, we'll go, this is your problem, get out of my face. But you go and say, all right, well, what do we need to do to fix it? And being open to that and being participatory in fixing the problem, they're going to come to you. And, maybe 6 months ago, one of our newer staff came and it's like, this setup, I think, doesn't work great. And I think it results in more stress than it needs to be. And, it stresses me out for sure and whatever. And I'm like, all right, great, let's change it. What do we need to do? And we made the change, and suddenly everyone was like, oh, yeah, we can handle 40% more volume with 20% less stress than what we were doing before. It's like, okay, that's great. Let's keep doing things like that. So if you're not interacting with your employees in that way, then you're not going to get that information. And yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great nugget, to value your employees and provide that safe place for feedback, where you're not going to automatically put up a wall because you have some idea that your idea is better than theirs.
Right.
To receive absolutely. Your idea may be better than theirs, but to keep that dialogue open, and actually what you got out of it was, like you said, 40% increase in inventory, 20%. What did you say? 40% more inventory, 20% less stress, or the other way around?
40% more volume and customers and transactions.
Yes.
20% less stress.
Yeah, who wouldn't sign up for that? That's awesome. So great nuggets. What's on? I know we can. Whenever my friend from Dallas comes down to visit Austin, Patika is one of his favorite places to go, and obviously I love being in there and feeling the space and everything that you've executed in there so well. What's next on your horizon? Are we chilling? Are we expanding? Is there anything you want to share, or it's just like we're good? This is good, and that's fine too.
Yeah, we are not shutting anything off. There's some people have approached us about some different space options, and we're talking to those. We're not going to jump into anything just for the sake of opening up another location. It would have to be right in a lot of different ways. Like, I think that where we are now with the space and the staff and everything is pretty great, and we don't want to jump too hastily into something else. So those options are out there. There's some folks that have some interest at Patika and doing some expanded things at Patika, expanded programming, expanded event stuff, things like that that we're looking into. But we don't know huge grand ambitions at this moment. But it took us probably 3 years from when the conversation started happening about the space that we're in, and when and till now. And so things take time.
Yes, do not push the envelope. It's kind of like being committed to your dream and not pushing the envelope. That's the dance.
It's very hard.
Good luck with that, everybody.
Exactly. There's this, time. I don't know if this is a cliche statement, but time brings wisdom. If you can just let things happen and you observe and you let things sink in, you take a day away to ride a bicycle and let thoughts, ruminate in your head for a while and then come back to it, new insights come out. And if you're trying to rush it or you're trying to make decisions too quickly or, it's those things take time, and it's a lot of those little steps along the way take time. And the one example, and this is a really just operational, functional thing, is the design of our coffee bar space and the design of our cabinets in the back took forever, and our contractor was ready to shoot all of us because we were pushing to the very last minute just because we kept changing it and figuring out the best way to set something up. And it was one of those things where you have to walk away and you have to think about it and you have to sketch it out and you have to revisit and talk to people and show people and get feedback. And it just takes time. And you can speed up some of those steps, but really a lot of it you just have to let things percolate for a little while and just wait, because it's you can't rush things, and if you are rushing, you may make a bad decision and do something, move into a space that's not quite right, or hire people that aren't the right fit for your company, a lot of things you just can't rush. So
sounds like we need to just chill out and have some coffee.
Sure, absolutely. Come down and have some coffee.
That's the solution. Don't rush things. Don't push the envelope. Take a break. Have some coffee.
Exactly.
And feel for what's right, and stay committed, and just kind of trust your heart, trust the intuition, and go from there. I'm in agreement with you, Andy. I'm in agreement with you. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time and out of your busy schedule to share your insights and valuable nuggets to the foodpreneurs out there and the beveragepreneurs. Is that a word? I don't know. Anybody in this space who has a heart to serve the customers in public and bring their passion to the world. I really, love what you're doing for the Austin community, and excited to be in alignment with you and have this conversation, and definitely look forward to what's next for Patika.
Thanks. I appreciate it. I appreciate you including us, and it's been fun chatting and getting to know your story a little bit too. And we'll see you over coffee.
All right. Thanks, Andy. I'll see you soon.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you for listening in to this week's episode of the Brick and Butter Zone. If you haven't already, go on over to brickandbutter.com, download your free mindset reset affirmations, and most importantly, feed your face, spread the love, and stay in the zone.